Ladies and gentlemen, you know who else questioned objective morality and used their will to power to excel in the most random situations?
My mom!
And if that is not enough an intro for you, you better get yourself buckled in for a very existential analysis of Regular Show, The Park, and our Übermensches, Mordecai and Rigby. Regular Show, for those of you who have not seen it, takes place in a park, which seems like a pretty chill place to work. You got a gumball machine for a boss, an immortal yeti/gorilla who can fix anything, an obnoxious green guy, a one-handed ghost, a lollipop, and two best friends who spend most of their shift doing absolutely nothing productive. And without further ado, let's get straight into the deeper stuff. The park is an institution that runs on rules. You clock in at 9, you do your assigned task, you don't cause a supernatural incident that levels the city, and everything's good. Benson, the gumball machine, in this case, is not just the manager of the park. He's the keeper of the institution. He represents every system that has ever told you to fall in line, do your job, and stop asking questions. The park, in the most literal sense, is the iron cage. Now, Max Weber, a German sociologist who was writing at the beginning of the 20th century, notices something about modern society that nobody wanted to admit at the time. That as civilization becomes more rational, organized, and efficient, it also became more suffocating. He calls this the iron cage, the idea that bureaucracy and rules once built trap everyone inside them. You don't question the system, you serve it, you become it, and you eventually forget that there was ever anything outside of it. The park is Weber's iron cage made literal, except it has a lawnmower and a snack bar. And Mordecai and Rigby are sucked into it. They were just looking for a chill job and they ended up in this iron cage. And every single episode follows the same loop. They try to do something on their own terms, the system pushes back. Then chaos ensues, and by Monday morning, they're back on the clock. Same job, same cage, the same Benson screaming at them about the consequences.
And you two idiots, if this isn't cleaned up when I get back, you're fired!
The loop never breaks. And yet, they never stop trying. Now, before we go any deeper, we need to talk about Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche, for those of you who don't know, was a 19th century German philosopher. He had a spectacular mustache and he was genuinely unhinged. A lot of people know of Nietzsche by that one sentence, God is dead. When he said that, he didn't mean that literally though. He meant that the foundations of objective morality had collapsed for centuries. Society organized itself around the idea that there is a universal right and wrong handed down from above, that everyone must follow it, and there is an observant God sitting there judging everyone and everything based on those morals. Nietzsche looked at that and said, that's bullshit.
We've had enough. We're gonna head out.
And more importantly, it's a lie invented by the weak as a defense mechanism. His argument kinda makes sense. Like, think about it. What he says is, back then when Jesus existed, most of his followers were poor people with no status or power. Then he talks about something like, I don't know, revenge. Since those guys didn't have enough power to get the ones who did them wrong back and could literally do nothing about it, they started coping with the idea that revenge is actually bad and forgiveness is good. Now, that's obviously an example, but you get the gist. Nietzsche calls this slave morality. The morality of people who can't excel on their own terms. So they go around building a system that punishes excellence and rewards compliance. That humility is a virtue and ambition is a sin. So you know your place, you clock in at 9. They make an objective system of their own. Nietzsche goes on to propose an alternative he calls master morality. The idea that value isn't handed down from above, it's created by us. It's created by individuals who are strong enough to define their own terms. He calls a person capable of doing such a thing the Übermensch, or the Superman, the Overman. The one who looks at the cage, recognizes it for what it is, and then refuses to let it define them. And the engine behind all of the Übermensch's doing is called the will to power. Not power over other people. That's a misreading which, as you may or may not know, caused a lot of historical damage. World War II.
Oh, hey Benson, what's up? We're finally painting the shed.
The will to power is the drive to become what you are, to excel on your own terms, to impose your values on your own life rather than borrowing someone else's. In an objective world, Mordecai and Rigby would be the furthest thing from this idea. They're just two slackers who can barely finish their assigned tasks. They just spend their shifts gaming and watching TV and getting into situations that should not be necessarily physically possible. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Nope, that ain't it, Chief. See, Mordecai and Rigby are not failing at being Übermensch. They're succeeding at it, just in a more or less unconventional method. In every episode, they deploy a completely selective will to power in the situation. They don't want to be the best employees. They want to be the best at whatever they've decided matters that day. The best at a video game, the best at a pizza party, the best at doing absolutely nothing productive in their own most spectacular way possible.
Dude! Mordecai!
They set their own terms. They pursue them with everything they have. And they refuse to let Benson's objective moral framework tell them that what they're doing is wrong. And that's not slacking. That's Nietzsche. But things get even more interesting. A thing that comes with the idea of the Übermensch is that a lot of people hear about it and think there is this destination, there is a finish line. You do enough will to powering and eventually you arrive, fully formed, undefeatable, beyond all conventional morality, just this subjective God. And that's not what Nietzsche meant when he talks about the Übermensch. In Nietzsche's world, there is no objective end to the Übermensch. There's no checklist, there's no graduation ceremony. The Übermensch is not something you become. It's something you keep becoming on a daily basis. It's continuous. It's basically this perpetual process of self-overcoming, of creating your own values, of refusing to let the world hand you a definition of success and forces you to call it your own. Which means Mordecai and Rigby have not failed at being Übermensch. They are actually very successful ones for that matter, because they never stop choosing their own terms. Every episode, regardless of what happened in the previous one, they wake up and decide what matters today. Maybe it's winning a bet, maybe it's throwing another party, maybe it's proving to everyone that they are in fact the best at Def Kwon Do.
The death jump or the death dump?
Maybe it's fucking up Garrett Bobby Ferguson, or as you might know him,
Giant bearded face.
the reset isn't the failure, the reset is the whole point. Benson sees the reset as proof that they'll never change, that they'll never grow, and they'll never become these productive members of the Parks' institutional framework. They're objectively not productive according to Benson's standards. But Nietzsche would see it differently. Nietzsche would say Benson is the one who's stuck, that he needs the loop because the loop is the cage and the cage is all he knows. Mordecai and Rigby don't need the loop to mean anything. They just need it to be theirs.
Look, Benson, I know we normally don't have very good excuses for why we don't do stuff, but we definitely have a good one this time. That horse right there fell out of the sky and has to pass a US history test or the whole Earth is gonna explode.
There's one more thing nobody talks about when they bring up Nietzsche and the Übermensch. My friends, unfortunately the human race is very successful in the business of selling irony. The guy who invented the concept of Übermensch and will to power couldn't use it himself. In 1882, Friedrich Nietzsche met Lou Andreas Salome. For the purposes, I'm gonna just call her Lou. Lou was a philosopher, a writer, and by all accounts one of the most impeccably intellectual and formidable people that Nietzsche had seen. Nietzsche was absolutely gooning for this chick. He proposed to her twice, and obviously she said no both times. Nietzsche then wrote some of his most important work, presumably to cope with the pain of getting rejected. The man who said God is dead and conventional morality is a cage built by the weak could not talk to a woman he liked. The will to power had a blind spot, and that blind spot had a name and a place in Nietzsche's heart. You see the pattern? Now let's look at Mordecai. This is a guy who has defeated supernatural entities, won interdimensional competitions. He has literally talked to death. He has babysat for death. His will to power in every other context is undefeated. And then this Red Robin who works at a coffee shop walks in. Her name's Margaret, and suddenly Mordecai can't form a single sentence. It takes him 4 seasons, more than 100 episodes, 107 episodes to be exact. 4 seasons of will to power completely abandoning him the moment Margaret is in the room. Rigby now, who is supposed to be the less emotionally developed one, is literally watching his best friend short circuit in real life. And even Rigby manages to ask Margaret out, but not Mordecai. And this is actually the most Nietzsche thing about the whole show, because Nietzsche never said the Übermensch was perfect. He never said the will to power was infinite or unconditional. The will to power is selective, it goes where you direct it, and if you've never learned to direct it towards vulnerability, towards genuine connection and letting someone actually see you for who you are, it just won't go there. Mordecai and Nietzsche both mastered everything except the thing that actually scared them the most. Margaret is Lou, and she didn't even have to reject Nietzsche. Margaret kinda liked Mordecai. I like to think that's what regular show is actually about. Not slacking, not supernatural park incidents, not Benson yelling at Mordecai and Rigby and his blood pressure going up. It's about 2 people who by every conventional metric are failing. They're bad employees, they're irresponsible, they cause more problem and damage than they can solve and figure out. The Iron Cage looks at them and sees a cautionary tale. But in the world of Nietzsche, the Iron Cage doesn't get to be the judge of Mordecai and Rigby, because there is no objective right or wrong. There is no golden rule you have to follow. There isn't a correct way to live. There's no finish line you cross and finally become a successful human being. Nietzsche spent his entire career dismantling the idea that someone else's framework does not get to determine whether your life was worth living or not. What matters is the will to power, not power over others. Power over yourself. The continuous, stubborn, sometimes ridiculous process of becoming. On your own terms, by your own definition, toward your own version of better. And by that standard, Mordecai and Rigby are doing amazing. They show up, they try, they fail. They cause a supernatural accident. They get yelled at by Benson, and they come back the next morning ready to do it all over again. Not because the system demands it, because they chose to. Because this park, these people, this stupid loop, it's theirs. That's not failure. That's the Übermensch punching in at 9 a.m. And honestly, that's enough for me. Thank you for watching, my friends. This has been an analysis of Regular Show.